Hello everybody, welcome to Short Shot Archery. Anthony here, and today I think this is a pretty special video. I'm going to be comparing the Python here by Chaser Archery to Hoyt's GMX and MK Archery's X10. So in this video, I'm just going to be comparing like the aspects of the riser, like how it looks and things like that. Different areas of the riser, if they're similar, if they're different. This is not really going to be about me shooting the riser because I do have experience with both the GMX and the X10, but my experience with shooting the Python is still pretty new. I haven't put several thousand shots through this riser yet. Only about 100 or so, give or take, whereas these two are on the tens of thousands of shots each. So shot comparison wise, that's not really a fair mark because I don't have time behind the Python. Also, it can vary based on the archer. This video is just going to be focused on design elements and just trying to see if these risers are really that similar to each other. To start off this video, I'm just going to give you my perspective on it. When I see all three of these risers, I definitely see three distinct risers that are different from one another. And if I were to make any direct comparisons, I would actually say the original, the GMX here, and the MKX10 are probably a little closer than the Python is to either one, but I am putting this video together so that you guys can check it out since I own all three, and I think it'll be fun just to actually size them up, and maybe my thoughts on this will change by the end of this video as we go through these risers together. Alright, so the first area we're going to look at is the area by the stabilizer mount. This is a very touchy area for me, given the fact that my black GMX, this same exact model but in black, actually snapped right down here. There was a clear gap in it and I had to get rid of the riser. It did get replaced by Hoyt, and I did get an Epic for that riser breaking since it was only 6 months old. I then sold the Epic because I personally didn't even bother making a video about it because I disliked it that much, and I was also kind of frustrated. And I bought this MKX10 here. So looking at the three, at this particular area, because for me, it's something I'm keeping an eye out on now because I've had this problem once and I really don't want to deal with a riser cracking again, especially in that area. And if you look, out of the three of them, the Python definitely has, I would say, one of the beefier sections here, along with the MK riser. You could actually say that the MK riser is maybe even a little bit beefier in certain sections than the Python is. But when comparing it to the GMX, you can see, man, Hoyt cut out a serious amount of metal on the GMX, and they really slimmed down some spots. So mine cracked right here. And as you can see, that looks like it's much thicker on the Python. And the same thing on the MK here. They get a little thin in this section, but again, still much beefier than the GMX in that portion. Of course, my riser breaking was probably once in a small margin, but again, since it was my experience, I don't ever want that to happen again to me. So I'm doing my best to avoid it and buying risers that are a little beefier in sections that I've found to be weak spots. Next up, let's talk about cutouts. Now, I know we kind of touched on cutouts a little bit with, where the stabilizer mounts on. But in general, people really like to compare cutouts on risers. Some of them are going to be in the same generic, positioning because that just works. You can take out metal there to make the riser lighter without, really damaging the structural integrity of the riser. And most of the time I feel like these companies stick with shapes that give, structural strength. The triangle is one of the strongest shapes in nature. At least that's what they taught me in public school. So I could be wrong, it is public school. But looking at the cutouts on these risers, just from my perspective here, The two bows that look much closer than the Python would be the X10 and the GMX. We got two cutouts on the bottom, two cutouts on the bottom. We do not have one up here, which is probably a structure thing for the X10. We have 1, 2, 3 on the top here for both of these. But on the other hand, when we go look at the Python, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 5 on the top, much smaller and with a lot more bracing in between. We even have a cutout up at the very top here, which is really interesting, and that is very unlike the GMX and the MKX10. As we continue down, we have 4 cutouts here, one very small, right below where you mount your stabilizer. But they are much, much smaller than the 2 cutouts on both the MKX10 and the GMX. So very, very interesting there. If you're somebody that likes to compare the cutouts on bows, I know a lot of people do, and that's why I felt like, this was an important point to put into this video. Next up, we're going to look at the front profile of all 3 of these risers. As you can see, smoothness wise, like how the metal's been like beveled to look more rounded. The Hoyt and the Chaser Archery Python are much closer in that aspect, but if you weren't to smooth down the edges of this riser, it's much beefier like the MKX10 is. It really makes the GMX, in my opinion, a much skinnier, almost kind of too thin of a riser when you start comparing it right next to these other 2 risers here. And it actually gets more pronounced, I feel, when you actually switch to the back of the riser. You can see, if I can hold all of these, you can see how much beefier the 2 black bows are compared to the blue one here. Just how much extra metal's there to give you that structure that you really do need in a riser if you don't want it to do crazy things on you. Another thing we can look at is the area around the grip. I'm sorry, my MK has the grip back on it because, well, it's the bow I shoot every day, and I just don't have that kind of time to have it all taken apart because I need to shoot arrows, because, well, I like shooting arrows a lot. I very much enjoy that. And yeah, that's my excuse for not having it uncovered. I've looked at it, and honestly, it's close to the Python cutouts wise and thickness wise. But when you compare the Python to the GMX, you can really see how much they cut down on the GMX, and they cut down so much they even had to put a spacer in so that the grip fits properly. Yes, yeah, you can use the spacer to move the grip left to right, but I really think it was I feel like it was more of a trimming down of the metal than it was for a grip adjustment left to right, because I really don't know anybody that actually uses the shim to move their grip left to right. They always put it in the same spot, whatever it comes stock from Hoyt. From my experience, that's how everybody shoots it. So I don't see it too much as that. It's more of a, oh, we trimmed some more weight off of it to make it lighter, and this is the result. We need to put a shim in here to make it work. But no, not technically an engineer, but I shoot a lot of bows, and I've had a lot of experience with these 3 risers. Next up, if we take a look at the Dovetails, it's very interesting, I think. So you got Hoyt here with the GMX with a very plain, very simple design. At the time, it looked good. It looked good. But after I checked out the MKX10, it is clearly a much beefier version of the Hoyt. It also looks a lot better too. They made the MK one look so much more streamlined and just better looking for the money you're paying for this riser. Plus the beefier part. It looks like it's stronger. It looks like it's better made. The funny thing, weight-wise, is they're about the same. I know there's official numbers out there for how much they actually weigh, and I don't have them on hand. But just from comparing the 2, they're about the same. So really kudos to the MK for beefing up the dovetail area a lot more than the GMXs, while still maintaining about the same weight. And then the same thing for the Chaser Archery Python. I think it's beefy in certain important sections, but it still has this interesting slimness to it. It's almost like a nice middle ground between the more beefy X10 and well, used to look beefy, but now actually kind of slim looking GMX here. I feel like it is a nice middle. Hopefully you guys can see that really well. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up, the points that I noticed about, these three risers here. Let me know in the comments section. Maybe I missed something. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, hey, that is all cool. That's the purpose of this video. I just want to share my thoughts on these three risers with you guys. And at the same point in time, it's always nice to hear other people's feedback and perspectives on certain things. So maybe I got it all wrong, but I feel like the Python is pretty distinct compared to these two risers. And overall, I think it's a really great addition, to the archery world, because more variety is better, and it's gonna, force other companies to work harder at designing their own, risers in a unique way, but also in a way that's going to benefit the archers both, financially, but in terms of, improved designs that allow you to adjust the bow easier and things like that. So at the end of the day, I think we all benefit as archers, and it's just really fun to compare all these equipment, even though they are coming from different points in archery history. So thank you so much again. Hope you really enjoyed. I enjoyed sharing, and as always, happy shooting.